Hello and welcome to Moonknighting, the Moon Knight reaction show from the Comic Crush. I will never be able to say the title Moonknighting. I don't know why. It was bad
Um,
before. It's even worse now. I've got a cold. I'm just
Moonnighting.
Moon Knight. Yeah, you could say it. I can't.
Moonnighting.
You're just taunting me now, Liz. How are you?
Doing well. Big episode this week. Lots
Yeah,
to
it
talk
is.
about.
It's great to see you, as always.
Of course.
Uh, it's customary to say nice to see you too.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just Jesus Christ.
Implicit, Paul. It was implicit.
Yeah, whatever. Thank God there's only one more week of this to go. Liz, it's moderately okay to see you this week. Yeah, it is a huge episode this week. Although not in the way that we expected. I feel like, excuse me, like the actual occurrences and happenings this week really surprised me, as they've done every week, to be honest. And I think that the show has constantly kind of not wrong-footed us, but in a way kind of wrong-footed us into thinking, oh, we're going to do this and you're going to get this, but hey, actually you're going to get this, which is kind of a feature of the Marvel stuff. Would you agree or no?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Really, I have to say, of all the shows, this is the one that has managed to kind of really keep me on my toes and surprise me the most week to week, because really each episode has been completely different from the one that has come before.
Yes.
So, in terms of being genuinely surprising, I really feel like this show is the one that has been most unlike what you kind of come to expect from a Marvel project.
Yeah, and I think that they've handled the stuff well so far. I mean, it's weird. I feel like we're almost talking about the end here, and although we're not, but this episode does represent a kind of ending, as we'll get into, and I feel that they've kind of navigated those shifts. I say it every week. They've navigated the tonal shifts really well, for me anyway, in a way that I've really enjoyed. I know perhaps you haven't, maybe.
Well, I'm gonna really look forward to rewatching this at some point. I think I'll give it a little while, but after it finishes, I'm really going to be interested to see what this is like watching it through, like, just all in one go. Because
Yeah,
sure. I feel like, and I would agree with you in that, the tonal shifts have actually worked, even though they are quite severe, from, episode to episode and sometimes scene to scene.
Yeah, totally. And even more so this week. It's quite a weird one because I felt that part of this episode could have been tacked on to last week's.
Which part are you referring to?
Like the opening moments. However, as you go through, you kind of see, oh, actually, maybe no, it couldn't. But I felt the shift from the appearance of Tarawet, yeah, and then back into the office of Dr. Harrow, now Dr. Harrow, kind of almost could have been the end of the episode. And I actually quite liked that shift. And I like this kind of doctor-patient relationship that's developing. And I also felt for a moment that we did get a flash of Jake Lockley in Mark, in the moment when he's trying to convince Harrow that he's kind of
everything's okay. Fine. Okay. Oh yeah. And thanks so much for your help.
Like, it felt like his accent had shifted a little bit, and it's like, oh, I wonder if this is Jake coming through now, but it wasn't. And of course, we had the sarcophagus.
Well, we don't know that it wasn't.
Completely. Oh, it's true. We don't. We had the sarcophagus, which remains an unanswered mystery. Shaking away there last week. I thought we'd get to open that sarcophagus, but we didn't. we're off into this kind of quite bizarre adventure. And even Tara was not how I thought she'd be. I mean, this quite sort of Middle England school mom type thing was odd, to say the least.
Which we kind of got a little taste of at the end of last week's episode. Like, she's sort of like, when they see her, they're screaming, but she's like, oh, hello.
Yeah. I quite like it. It's an interesting juxtaposition to have this quite super dark and super serious mental separation going on, and what could clearly be defined as a mental breakdown, I think, as while you've got these kind of things, and I think in this episode Harrow decided to he kind of took the position of the audience, because one of the first thing he says to Mark when he sort of snaps back into the office is, oh, I'm really interested in this new animal character that's arrived, and it's just like, oh, okay.
Right, so which was quite funny. It's like, he's like, oh, the rhinoceros, and Mark's like, hippopotamus.
Yeah.
Like,
and the more I think about it, the more Harrow has kind of done that throughout the series. Because he's the one that asked Stephen questions in the first couple of episodes. He's asking Stephen, oh, like, do you hear voices? Is it this? Is it that? And I think also now when you look at it, that could be a kind of reference to this Dr. Harrow figure. And again, I don't know that they're not all going to suddenly at the end wrap it up and go, well, it's all in his mind.
It's possible. Like, I mean, because now we're sort of like, we're working, through this episode, we're working on sort of almost 3 different, realities, possible realities where, we're with Mark and Harrow in the office, which seems to be one kind of version of reality. We are journeying through the afterlife with Tawaret, and then there's also the actual what we're meant to believe was the original reality.
And sorry.
And so we have to, it's at this point they could kind of take it in any of those directions and say, well, this is what's actually real.
And finally, 5 episodes in, we get the secret origin not only of Moon Knight, but of Mark Spector and of Stephen Grant, which I kind of really liked, and I liked the way they managed to bring all those threads together. And I think it's kind of interesting. I genuinely thought when they were talking about balancing the scales in the kind of manifested mental hospital cycle, I thought it was going to have to be Jake. I thought Jake was going to show up then, and he would have to be the thing that balanced out the scales. But obviously it goes deeper into kind of personal tragedy. I like what they did with the brother because, of course, Mark Spector did murder his own brother, as we've talked about in,
right. There is, it like, so this is, it's a totally different origin for the brother. It's a totally different past with the brother than what we get in the comics. In the comics, his brother, sort of is an adult villain that we meet, and Mark has to fight him and he dies. And, it's a totally different situation than what they present here. But, I felt like for what they're doing with the show, this worked very well. And the character of Randall could maybe come back, but who knows? I don't,
And we get that, we get a reason for Stephen to exist, but also we get an explanation as to why Stephen is so browbeaten and so lowly and so nervous, and why he's constantly seeking the approval of his mother. And that was fantastic, I thought, because it explains everything. And also, it's like the question I'm left with in like episode 2, I think it was. Layla asks him about his mother. She says, "Oh, are you talking again?" Implying that Layla knew for sure that she was still alive. But here we learn that his mother's been dead for
2 months.
Yeah,
So Layla probably wouldn't, because she wasn't in contact with Mark.
Yes, okay, probably, you're absolutely right.
She wouldn't have known that the mother had died.
But I thought it was a kind of fascinating sort of dive into at least the reasons for Mark kind of inventing those personalities.
Right. Absolutely. And so it really, like, this is Stephen, having to find out, some really hard truths.
Yeah.
About himself, that he is not the original.
Yeah.
That he is an invention of Mark. And for a particular reason that really, that he finds deeply upsetting.
Yeah, and he's there to take the kicking, which he, again, by the end of the episode, he does. He fulfills that kind of destiny, and he is the one that is kind of has that's cast off. And I just found it utterly kind of compelling watching this episode, to kind of see where they were going with it. And
so here's a question that so this entered my mind. So we know that that Mark invented Stephen. He based around that Tomb Buster sort of knockoff Indiana Jones film that that he and his brother were obsessed with as kids. So, and that's where the British accent comes from,
right?
And all of that. Stephen Grant knows no fear. Is what it says on the poster. So it all kind of makes sense. Why Stephen is what he is. And Mark really doesn't want to show him, and when he finally sees, Mark says, no, I don't want you to see that. Like, that's the whole point of you. You're here, to have the nice life where you believe your mother loves you, and that she's not dead and everything. But what I felt was a possibility was that Mark not only may have invented Stephen to serve that function, but what if he wasn't the one who actually got the beating? What if that's Jake? What if he invented a Jake persona, to take the worst of the abuse from his mom?
I actually kind of took it that Stephen was at least very aware of the violence, and that's part of the kind of approval seeking and why he's so cowed and so.
I did not. I took it that Stephen, like maybe there was a sense that he had that there was something wrong, and that's why he's so meek. But he seems to believe that he has, a mom who loves him, that he calls up and tells about his day, and so. Yeah,
actually, you're right. Yeah, totally.
Right. But it hasn't been made clear whether or not, because Mark knows obviously that, the relationship with his mother is bad, but he may have also created Jake to, to take the brunt of the violence from her.
Yeah.
Because she was kind of either neglectful or violent.
And I mean, it's so the whole thing of Mark sitting shiver for his mother is something that comes out of, again, Lemire's run, and I feel we're now into Lemire's run deeper than ever, and we are getting a version of that. So in his run, the mental hospital has layers, and it is an access to the outer world, and they have to cross in a ferry, and they have to make a sacrifice, importantly, which in the run is Crawley. And here is, Stephen. So I mean, I now feel we're kind of fully into that, even more so than last week, which I felt last week was quite a significant dive in that direction. But like, I don't know what I need to say about it. Like it's just it was a. Like, I just found it to be a really exciting and interesting bit of television, and like this whole show has really spoken to me and really kind of moved me. And in fact, I've just finished writing about Lemire run for the website, which is going up hopefully next
Mm-hmm.
week sometime, and that really spoke to me. And I'm really curious to see where they're going to take this now. Also, going back to, I don't know if you remember, we were talking about there not being a second season of this show.
Well, yeah, which has not actually been confirmed 100%, but it's been implied by their decisions, of the things they're planning to submit as ongoing series.
But also, it's also that Oscar Isaac hasn't signed up for a second season, and I believe that's part of his reticence to kind of be part of another huge franchise. And I think he's playing it safe because I suspect that he felt very burned by Star Wars and very burned by, well, in fact, extremely burned by X-Men Apocalypse, and then very burned by Star Wars, where I think he was underserved. I think he was underserved in both films by both filmmakers and fans. Really. I think he just had to take it from both sides.
I mean, I think people loved Poe, particularly in The Force Awakens, and but I think that I don't know how satisfying his journey was, throughout, which is kind of the case, in my opinion, with most of the characters in that trilogy, unfortunately.
Yeah, sure. I agree.
But no, I also think just as an actor, he might just want the freedom to, kind of choose his projects and not be tied to, a 9-picture deal, which is what they tend to offer, 6 to 9,
standard for
Marvel films. Yeah, exactly. Especially the titular characters of each series.
And of course, those things may include, one scene in some other movie. And it's just you've done your picture in that. And I think there is an element to that. But I'm hoping that the last episode won't be a wrap up in a way. Because I still feel like this is Moon Knight Begins almost, because we're coming in at a point of the story just as Stephen finds out, oh, actually, I'm this. And it is Stephen's journey we're following. It's not Mark's, really, when you think about it, because Stephen is the Access character. He is the one that's going through the biggest leaps of self-discovery, right up to discovering the fact that, he's not real, quote unquote. Sorry, go on. You were going to say something.
Well, I'm based on the fact that Oscar Isaac hasn't signed on for more. I would say the episode we're going to get next week has got to be a conclusion, so that if this season does just exist, as a done in one series, then, there will have to be a satisfying ending, so that it could just exist on its own. I hope we don't see, the last of Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight. I hope he does, sort of sign on for more, but I absolutely think they'll have to write it that way. Because this may be the only, which would be interesting. It would actually be quite interesting for Marvel to do a done in one series and just leave it at that. That's not something that they've done before, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, because I mean, I think you can argue that Falcon and Winter Soldier, even if they only did one season of that, those are major characters on their way to somewhere else. But to origin a character, start a character and end a character in one season is quite the feat. And the shows are very much, I feel, acted as a sort of a bridging devices, really, between
films, really. It's obviously they've built up a lot of the multiverse stuff in the Disney Plus shows, which is gonna really pay off in Doctor Strange. It's already paid off in Spider-Man No Way Home. But a lot of that world, sort of the world building that needed to be done to help you buy into that stuff that they've done in the films was done in the shows, through WandaVision, through Loki. So, it seems to be that the shows, as much as they say the shows aren't necessary to watch the films. I feel that if you want to get the most out of the films, you're going to watch the shows.
I think that's utter balls, to be honest, and I think they've said that to conversely in a way to kind of address the thing where people are like, I don't really want to spend £80 a year on this thing. Although I actually think it's one of the best investments I've made personally, because the amount of stuff that's constantly kind of uploaded to it every week. Sorry, I'm a bit subdued this week. I'm not feeling too well, and I think this is an episode that's really excited me intellectually, but not necessarily in a way that I can fully express. And
I mean, to me, it was a real trip of an episode. Like, I mean, it is. I had to watch it twice to really like work out how I felt about it. Like, I liked it on the first viewing, but I was also like, what did I just watch? Like, was that amazing, or or was it just like completely bananas? I couldn't decide at first. And on my second viewing, I was like, I really liked this. Like, I do think now that we're in this terrain of kind of, as you say, the Lemire stuff, and what's real and what isn't. I feel like that is where like the best kind of Moon Knight stuff exists for me. Where you're in Mark's head, or are you, or all of that, I think is the really kind of rich stuff to explore with this character. And whether at any given time you kind of think, okay, well, I'm pretty sure I know what is real, in terms of what we're doing with the show. It's like, well, actually, maybe not. I don't, as you say, it could wind up that actually the psych ward is what's real.
Yeah, totally. And I think that
Harrow as the doctor, and like I love the Ned Flanders comparison.
Yeah,
is what's real. And
I think it would almost be the bravest choice to do that, but I think for a lot of fans, possibly including us, it might feel like a cop out too.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think that's gonna that's gonna be the case. I think we're gonna wind up back with Layla, and having to defeat Harrow and stop Emmett from rising. And I think that is I think we're gonna go back to that. But in the meantime, this has been the most fun I've had watching all of this stuff play out, and trying to work out like, how are they gonna get out of it? How are they gonna bring him back to the reality?
Maybe they go deeper in. I don't know. It's kind of.
I mean, they have a lot to wrap up in the next episode. Like, if we're gonna get Jake, we don't know, but I mean, they've been hinting at it.
I wonder if you might get Jake right at the end.
And I mean, is Jake
the next phase?
Like, is Jake the one who, that scene in the museum, was that Mark, or was that Jake? Like the super violent fighting, in the Moon Knight costume. Like that. But then again, we also see in this episode Mark's body count. It's huge. They go into that cafe of dead bodies, and Mark recognizes every one of them, and it's all people that he killed as a mercenary.
Well, it's just like the thing is, there are no good mercenaries.
Yeah. I mean, but you kind of want to point the finger at Jake at this point as being the the killer. But if Mark acknowledges that he killed all those people, then it kind of calls that into question.
Was it Jake sort of shit-faced in the hotel room at the end of like episode 2, was it, where the end is the sort of pan around the hotel room, and you can see Stephen trapped in the mirror, and Mark or Jake lying on the floor drinking. And
I took that to be Mark. But at this point, there's all sorts of things where it might kind of flash us back throughout the series and show us moments that were actually Jake, maybe.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be a lot to do to get him out of the afterlife, out of the field of reeds, back to where he needs to be, alive again, to stop Harrow, introduce Jake Lockley if that's what they're going to do. Whatever they're going to do with Steven, is Steven just gone? I don't know. Doesn't seem like, that would be a very nice ending. But maybe they will. I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like he's got to rescue Steven personally.
Yeah, I feel that's kind of got to happen. That there's, there is a lot of stuff happening.
But it's interesting. Sorry to cut you off, but
no, go on.
It's interesting that he has made it to the Field of Reeds, which is like a version of heaven. But we haven't accounted for Jake yet. Okay, so why are the scales in balance? For just Mark, or what about Jake?
Yes, I mean it's kind of there's a lot still to resolve, I feel, and I'm like, I've got a feeling they'll actually pull this off, because I like this will be the one show where it all kind of really clicks together, because I feel that to a certain degree a lot of the others haven't. I don't want to bring up.
Yeah, well, I disagree, but
I know you're wrong though. So it's cool.
No,
it's cool. You can just live with that and cry about it after we
I will never
cut the episode. We should watch it again at some point, and
Falcon and Winter Soldier,
and then you can go to me. Yeah. Oh, actually, I was
with a big old smile on my face.
You can't just watch the bits with Sebastian Stanley.
Also the bits with Daniel Brewer.
So I tell you how much my girlfriend hates Daniel Brewer.
Oh my god, I love him so much. Anyway,
lots of wrap ups. And again, sorry guys, we've been a bit subdued this week. It's been a bit of an odd episode. We didn't really get to talk about this beforehand or see how we were going to approach it. And
I feel like there's still plenty to say about it, to be honest.
Go for it.
I mean,
I'm not done. I'm not saying we're done. I'm just saying.
Okay, well, I mean, we get the backstory of Mark becoming Moon Knight. We actually get to see that scene, which is something that we hadn't seen before. Like, they reference Bushman as the one who kills Layla's dad. That's all comics accurate. Of course, if we're talking about Marlene, I think the invention of Layla is just kind of Marlene with more agency, in a way.
Yeah.
And also they kind of an Egyptian,
it's that
character.
Oh, there's one thing I do want to bring up from a couple of weeks ago, where I was kind of talking about, was the stuff in episode 3 really positive portrayals of Egyptian characters, and we had a little discussion about that. And in looking at some of the stuff particularly in the Into the Night podcast group, who, hello to those guys again, and thank you for all your support. And that's a podcast you guys definitely should be checking out, because that really deep dive into Moon Knight as a character and the history of the comics and things. But one of the guys there who is Egyptian, I believe, was saying that the way the sort of street thugs were threatening each other and the movements and things were completely. Goes, look, we're not proud of this, but this is completely accurate to how these types of guys would threaten each other and completely. So I want to kind of say sorry for kind of maybe bringing that up as a negative, because I think even in that, I mean, I always go on about how if you're going to show a society, any society, whether they're people of color or white or whatever nationality or whatever, you've got to be able to show the negatives as well as the positives. And I think that successfully did that in thinking about it again. So sorry if anyone was kind of put off that week when I was talking about that, but I just wanted to kind of readdress that. But yeah, I think that May Calamari as kind of, I think for one thing, it gets people of Egyptian descent in the show, and that is fantastic. And it gets to show you a side of the culture that I don't know how like they kind of go into the mythological sides of that in the comic, but I don't know how much they've gone into the kind of, you know, quote unquote real parts of that culture. You know what I mean?
Right. I don't know either. Honestly.
Certainly not
I
necessarily the runs that I've read, but then obviously, you know, maybe the story did not need that, and therefore,
right. You know, I mean, they had
but
a
it's
lot
interesting to kind
to.
of,
Yeah, they had a
yeah,
lot to do. You know, each of these episodes have been really jam packed, and you know,
yeah,
I loved the episode that was set in Egypt. You know, I loved you know, kind of all the, you know, all the scenes, like, you know, in the tombs, and you know, just the little bits of, you know, the city of Cairo that we got to
yeah.
see. And you know, I just I felt like it really lent itself
It's
to any Moon Knight story, really, like, you
yeah,
know, that setting.
it's been
uh,
great.
yeah. um
Yeah. I mean, I like the fact that we're getting these sort of gods and oddities in there, and um, it's still a fascinating kind of belief system and culture. Um, and
I love
something
that
that
we got to see Khonshu for another minute. Like, it made me
yeah,
realize how much I miss Khonshu.
yeah,
Like, you know, and his like
he's been
big
great.
booming
Yeah.
voice. And you know, that's another thing that needs to happen next week. We gotta get Khonshu back.
Or maybe we're not. Like, this is the thing. I feel like it could go anywhere. I'm, you know, now when I read the Lemire run, and because that's full of Khonshu's voice, I'm now hearing F. Murray Abraham. So kind of,
He has such a great
come then,
voice.
my son. It's like, you know, it's great stuff. Sorry, I've just kicked over something in my my living room. But I think you're getting, yeah, there's a ton of good stuff there. And we still kind of, it'll be interesting to see how the other gods maybe play back in. I'd kind of like to know what the other gods do and what their avatars do for them.
I mean, I think that's going to be a step too far for this next episode.
this,
but
yeah.
you know, maybe
So-
if
so-
they do, you know, eventually give us a Moon Knight season 2, you know, at some point or other, or film,
Yeah.
you know, that could be an interesting thing to explore.
And I think the next episode is only going to be sort of 45 minutes.
Really?
It's going to be quite a short
That's
one. Yeah.
shocking.
Yeah.
I find that shocking. It's like there's so much to tie up, and it's the final episode. So I find it unbelievable that they wouldn't give us an hour long.
48 minutes, something like that. There was a
Wow.
Those kind of non-articles about it today. Yeah, so I think there's lots to kind of play for, but with what expediency are they going to do it? I don't know. Probably quite a lot. I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready for it. So yeah, and obviously the final episode for us of this show.
Right. Yep.
We are going to try and get a guest on the next episode.
Yep. It would be nice. I really enjoyed getting to chat to Jed and Erica.
Yeah.
So far, and you know, it would be really cool if we did get another.
Yeah, I
guest for our final.
Loved our chat with Jed, and Erica was fantastic as always. She's always so much great fun, and she always brings up like amazing kind of points and a way to look at it. And I think that's the thing I really like about having the guests is I always feel like I learn something and learn a different way to look at something, even if I don't agree. Like, you know, whereas I felt last week of the three of us, I was the one who was kind of, I'm really loving this, and everyone else was like, no, or you know,
right.
But that's fine. You know, I don't want to take that away from anyone, because I think it fulfills different things in different people. It's what art's for, and I don't know. I'm really kind of digging the show.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's an odd show in a lot of ways because as you say, it changes tack and structure and direction like big time, episode to episode.
Totally. And
you know,
and
like
you say,
episode 1, you know, you couldn't have really predicted that you would be here, you know, on a ferry to the afterlife.
No.
You know, with a, you know, talking hippopotamus, and you know, in 3 different places at once, 3 different realities at once, with Mark and Steven both in the same scene, all that stuff. you know, with what they gave you in episode 1, I feel like, you know, I couldn't have found it plausible that by episode 5 we would have been doing all those things. Yeah. So I'm impressed that they kind of managed to make that happen in a natural way. And in that, it's like, okay, yeah, that's what makes sense right now.
I'm really curious as to how Mark gets out of this, because as we saw the last time he was dying, Khonshu stepped in, but there's no Khonshu this time. There's no, you know, who is going to kind of revive him this time, if at all. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really curious. Maybe.
I mean, Layla, you know, we know that Layla was with him in the tomb when, you know, he was shot. We know that she, you know, it may know, you know, how to reach Khonshu, possibly. It may be that Khonshu's going to have to revive him again.
It might actually also be interesting that, you know, if Layla does indeed become the Fist of Khonshu, you know, it's
possible. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, you know, we could wind up with a show where Mark Spector stays dead and, you know, Layla becomes the new Moon Knight.
It's a direction to take it in. It's an interesting one, and not one I would be opposed to, I've got to say. But there's lots of places for it to go, and I've really dug this series so far. I've genuinely been really excited every day to watch it. Every week to watch it, really.
Yeah, I know I've complained about it here and there, but every week that, you know, it's coming out, like all day, I'm thinking to myself, oh, I can't wait to get home and watch Moon Knight.
Oh yeah, of course, because you have to watch it post work.
I do. I have to watch it after I get home from work. So
yeah, sometimes if I can time it right, I get to watch it before I head into Gosh get comics and stuff. But beyond that, I don't really get to see it early. So next thing from us, speaking of comics, hopefully will be another episode of Crushing Comics, which, guys, you know, sorry we've kind of neglected it for the last couple of weeks. But life has been a bit frenetic for both of us, and it's been a bit difficult to find the time to get everything ready and do the show. For the next few weeks, it may be a bit kind of up and down. Like you may get a show one week, you may not, and then hopefully after that we should get back into our stride and be doing weekly episodes.
We've also got I mean, lest we forget, Paul, there's another big thing that we're going to need to be reviewing next week.
Oh yeah, of course. So we've got to find the time for that as well. That's something for me and my colleague here to negotiate.
Colleague.
Could you not have just settled for colleague? Why do you need the adjective? Let's try and let's try and
psych out. Deserved, you know. I just felt like obviously the natural thing to say.
Is it?
Yeah, Doctor Strange, dude.
Oh, you don't want to go there, no?
Well, no, because I just want to talk about Doctor Strange. Yeah, next week, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. We will be reviewing that, hopefully on the weekend, right?
Yeah, I hope so. I'm going to see it as soon as possible.
Same.
As soon as my ailing health and work schedule allow. So I'm going to run see that as soon as it's out. I think it's out 5th of May.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Looking at my trusty computer's calendar here. The 5th of May. Oh, the 5th of May is a Thursday. I guess it may be. Oh, it's the 6th of May. I think.
Well, no, it'll be in theaters on the Thursday.
Yeah. Well, maybe there, maybe not. I don't know. I haven't.
It is in the States. I know that.
But this is certainly something we'll be reviewing as soon as possible. But again, we'll talk about that when we go off here. But the comic show should be kind of back in a few weeks, probably. Properly, I mean, not probably. It will be back in a few weeks. And we'll kind of, go back to our regular schedule. But apologies that it's been so kind of up and down for those of you missing the comic show. We've missed kind of doing it, but
yeah. I mean, and like, there's been loads of good books out. This week is a massive week. You've got Death of the Justice League in issue 75.
So, yeah.
You got, new Spider-Man #1, loads of things.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be talking about those tomorrow. There is one thing I do want to talk about tomorrow if we're back on, and that is the launch of DC Universe Infinite. I got a few things to say about that. So we'll be talking about that.
We'll save it for the comic show.
Yeah, and there's some more kind of exciting stuff coming up. The next episode of the comic show after that might be an interesting one for people. But you'll see why when you come back. But yeah, we're gonna come back and talk about that. Just to say, I had fun at the Christian Ward signing at Gosh Comics the other day. That was a lot of fun. It was lovely to see Christian.
I love Christian. He's awesome.
His new book is amazing, and I really enjoyed it, and we will be talking about it tomorrow. So
yeah, I picked that up. I picked up a copy of it. I'm really looking forward to it. Because as far as I know, he's never written anything beyond maybe like a short.
Yes. No, he wrote. He did, of course, write Machine Gun Wizards. I believe.
Okay. Haven't read.
Sammy Cavella did the art on that. So yeah, he has written stuff before. Anyway, we'll come back and we'll talk about that. We'll have Doctor Strange, of course, soon ish. And Peacemaker. That's something else planning. Nikki will be on for that in a few weeks. Not a few weeks, hopefully in the next week or so. Sorry, I've just got to try and figure out a good time to sort of plug in and sit and watch that. We were due to do it a couple of weeks ago, but things got in the way. But I'm looking forward to doing that. And that's it. Hopefully we'll get Keith back on soon as well. I haven't seen Keith in ages. We've hardly spoken.
Maybe a Moon Knight retrospective.
Could be. We'll see what happens. But I think with all the shows we're doing, we may not have time for a retrospective. We've got no time to look back, Liz. We just got to keep going forward.
True. We'll see. I'm sure the stars will align.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. So it's been fun seeing you again, Liz. I say that with inverted commas, of course.
Well, thanks, Paul. It's well to see you too.
Why do I put up with this every week? I don't know. No, lovely to see you guys. Thank you for watching and listening on the podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. One more thing. For those of you that listen to the podcast on Spotify, obviously it's been a bit late over the last few weeks. I've now started to sort of catch up with myself, and that the podcasts have been going out the sort of next day. Largely it's late because of my work schedule. I don't always get to put them out the next day because usually I roll straight from these into a day at Gosh, and I just don't have the time to do the stuff that I want to do. However, we're also slowly moving to putting the videos on Spotify. I'm probably not going to do the back catalogue just yet. So it will be the new starting shows and things like that as we move forward. So keep an eye out for that, but slowly we'll be putting the videos on Spotify. So if you prefer to get the videos there, do give it a try. I haven't tried it yet. I've got no idea what they look like. It does take a bit longer to do. But yeah, so we'll keep coming at you in as many platforms as possible.
Excellent.
But loads of stuff in the web shop if you want to take a look at that. New stuff going in this week, including some more Moon Knight comics and other things like that. We'll catch you next time on The Crush. Remember to take a look at Ahmed Refat's website, which is his link tree is down there. You can take a look at his. He does our wonderful logo and gave us the name for the show. Hello, Ahmed. I hope you're good. And check us out here every week. Comic Crush. Please subscribe. Hello to all the new subscribers. Sorry, I'm rushing through it now. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time on The Crush. Goodbye, Liz.
Bye.